أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط وأنزلنا الحديد فيه بأس شديد ومنافع للناس وليعلم الله من ينصره ورسله بالغيب إن الله قوي عزيز ولقد أرسلنا نوحا وإبراهيم وجعلنا في ذريتهما النبوة والكتاب فمنهم مهتد وكثير منهم فاسقون صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I recited verse number 25 and number 26 of Surah Hadid. 25 for the reason that we weren't able to finish just the messages of that ayah. The ayah number 25, which is talking about how we have sent Rusul with the bayyanat, with the clear signs, with kitab, and also we revealed or we sent down upon you hadid, which is iron. It has uses for mankind. And obviously afterwards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we will see that who is among the helpers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who's among the helpers of Rasulullah and who's among the helpers of the religion of Allah. And this is where we see the messages of this verse number 25 that we recited yesterday, is that in management, when we give responsibility to someone, we must also provide them with proper tools. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing when He says, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا. We sent our Rasul. Did He just send the Rasul and that's it? No, He provided the tools for them as well. He provided the book for them. He provided mizan to them. And then He said we gave or we sent down hadid as well. It was used by some of the prophets. We gave the examples of Dhul Qarnayn. We gave the example, well, not the Rasul. We gave the example of Prophet Saleh. We gave the example of our other prophets, how they were able to use it. So we see that in management, when we give responsibility to someone, we must also provide them with the tools, the proper tools. So that's why it says, Arsalna Rusulana bil Bayyinat, Kitab, and Mizan. Prophets were given the tools for guiding others. In proper management, instructions come from the manager and the actions from the people. That's why Arsalna Rusul with Kitab and Mizan, لِيَقُومَ النَّاسَ بِالْقِسْطِ, so that people may perform qist, or people may be muqsitin, they must be maybe justice. There might be justice among the societies. The real justice is accomplished only under the shadow of divine law and divine leadership. That's why it says Rusuluna al-Kitab. Both are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not from among the people. Philosophy behind Nubuwwat is to establish justice, and all of them have the same aim. All of the prophets did the same aim. Justice is sought in all areas equally. That's why Allah used the word bil-qist, mutlaq, without any conditions. So it's unconditional. If He had used some sort of conditions with the word qist, qist in this or qist in that, then it would have been understood that He has limited it. But when He used it absolutely without any conditions, it's unconditional. That is telling us that justice is sought in all areas equally. One must deal strongly with the obstacles in spreading the justice. And that's why He said, لِيَقُومُ النَّاسَ بِالْقِسْطِ, so that people may be following this justice. وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ, and we revealed or we send down upon you this iron. If there's some sort of problem or there's shiddat in it, we send down this iron for you so that you may take care of it. Accepting the invitation of the prophets is in itself helping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ, so that Allah may know that who are the helpers. Allah already knows. It's that so that you and I would find out who are the helpers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But how helping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does that mean? It says invitation, accepting the invitation. That itself is the first step of helping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Supporting the religion and Prophet's call is virtuous when it comes sincerely from the heart and with clean soul. مَن يَنْصُرُهُ وَرُسُلُهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. Whoever helps Allah and His Rasul who have come from ghaib. So how do we believe in them? We haven't seen Allah. You and I haven't even seen prophets. But we still believe in them. And we're still trying to propagate that religion. So that means it's coming definitely from bottom of our hearts, sincerely. Because without seeing them, without having to see this thing, and bil ghaib, with unseen, we're believing in it, and we're propagating it, that means we're true in what we are trying to do. Otherwise, there might be some other agendas attached. Do not imagine that God is in need of our help. لِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ مَن يَنْصُرُهُ. So that Allah may know who are the helpers. That does not mean that Allah is in need of help. Rather, He's trying to show to others, look, He will be able to make it obvious to others that who is really working towards helping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allaha qawiyyun aziz. Don't think that Allah is in need. He's qawi and He's aziz. He's got the honor and He's got the power. He wanted someone else would go ahead and do the job. But among you folks, He wants to go ahead and make sure that you figure out who is among the helpers of Allah and who is not among the helpers of Allah. And that is one of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us. The reason behind the tests and tribulations, when a teacher tests his pupil and his students, a professor is giving a test, what is the reason? He knows to an extent, after having taught them for a year, the capabilities of all the students. But still, he needs to figure out in the final exam, maybe someone might have worked hard, so that they might be able to attain higher grades. And that is the reason, because teacher is unaware of the ability of the students. And that is the reason why he wants to test. Another reason for testing is obviously to grade them, and then so obviously to move them to the second grades or the higher grades. But this is the reason primarily because the teacher and the professor is unaware. Is Allah unaware? No, He's not. He's aware of all the umur. We read in the previous ayah, He has written everything in this book. Was from before, so everything is in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is He then testing? He's testing so that He can bring our inner capabilities out in front of the other individuals. So you and I can recognize other people and we may be able to draw other lessons from it. Another aim of the bi'that of the prophets is to perfect the akhlaq. Prophet said, بُعِثْتُ إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent so that I may perfect the fadail of akhlaq and the virtues of akhlaq among you. And then we come to verse number 26. After these messages from verse number 25, the prelude to the explanation about the reason behind sending the prophets and what did we send them with, and Allah wants to see who's their helper. Now He comes to وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ وَجَعَلْنَا فِي ذُرِّيَّتِهِمَا النُّبُوَّةَ وَالْكِتَابَ. He says, certainly we sent Noah and Abraham, and we ordained among their descendants prophethood and the book. Some of them are rightly guided, and many of them are transgressors. Points in this ayah, you would be able to appreciate it more when you have understanding of the previous ayah. As to in the previous verse, there was a mention of sending prophets with manifest proofs. Here, it is mentioning two examples of those prophets. So initially, He gave you the general idea. We send down prophets. Now, making it even, the scale is coming even shorter. It's saying now we'll explain which are the examples of some of our prophets. So don't misunderstand this. We send down prophets, they all come from us. Now the two examples of the prime prophets. One is Prophet Nuh, second is Prophet Ibrahim. Now obviously in the stories of both Prophet Nuh and Prophet Ibrahim, there are great lessons to be learned. Prophet Nuh, all of them belonging to being the ulul azm, the elite group of the messengers, obviously. Prophet Nuh, spending 950 years among his people. Well, obviously, his age was much more than that. He lived for 2,000 some years, but he spent 950 years among the people that he was propagating. How many was he able to bring onto his ship? How many was he able to convert and follow the path that he wanted, that he was propagating? 82. Only 82 people followed him. Out of 950 years of his propagation, people lived for longer lives at that time. So it's not like, he was propagating for 950 years, but, people kept dying, so he only had 82. Now, if they kept dying, their progeny must have been alive. But at the end of the day, he only has 82 followers. So that tells you his perseverance. That tells you that he did not make dua against them. That tells you, unlike other prophets who were fed up with their people, they made dua against them. Oh, Allah, send adhab on these people because they're not listening to me. He stayed firm and he was perseverance in that. So that's why he gets the status of what? Ulul Azm Anbiya. That's why other prophets did not get to the status of Ulul Azm. Prophet Nuh did. Prophet Ibrahim, inshallah, will mention more in regards to him as we go along. This verse also explains the method of continuation of prophethood. It said, we ordained among their descendants prophethood and the book. So how do we know what is going to happen after Noah and Ibrahim? Well, we have ordained prophethood, the Rusul, in their progeny as well. We're going to give books to their progeny as well. So the process will continue seamlessly without any hurdles. There will be prophets which will be announced by the previous prophets or by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. Some in their progeny are deserving and Allah made them prophets and imams, whereas some in their progeny were transgressors, as the ayat is very clear about it. Some of them were muhtad, were guided, but some of them, aktharuhum fasiqeen, they were fasiqoon. Allah placed imamat in the progeny of Prophet Muhammad, salawat Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah gave nubuwwah to the son of Hazrat Ibrahim, the direct sons, Prophet Ishaq and Ismail. So he left progeny of Prophet Muhammad to be the imams. That doesn't mean that the system of nubuwwat and imamat is like monarchy, that it is going to run in the family. The eldest child will get to it, and then their eldest child will get to it. As you heard the news of a grandchild being born in the royal family in UK, right away they're saying he's third in the line of throne. The first is the grandfather, second is the father, and third, this child who's born, he's third in line. God knows when he will get his opportunity, if ever he gets his opportunity, as the one who's first in line has been waiting for quite a few years. So it's not monarchy. It's not already decided that this child who's born right now is going to be, although it is decided already in imamat and the nubuwwat, but it is not known at the moment. You cannot just say this is the oldest, because he's the eldest, he's going to be the next imam, or he's going to be the next prophet. That is not how imamat or the prophethood works. It's not like monarchy, where the children must inherit. Rather, it has to do with the internal purification and their capability. It is transferred to the offspring due to the fact that they have purified themselves. This is why when Prophet Ibrahim requested the imamat in his progeny, he says, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. And he says, Allah replied, لَا يَنَالُ أَحْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. My covenant doesn't reach the undeserving in your offspring. Therefore, the real criterion for the post of prophets and imam is qualification and not inheritance. So we see clearly the inheritance is not playing a role over here. The ayat of Hazrat Ibrahim, where he's promoted to this, it says in Surah Baqarah 124, وَإِذْ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا قَالَ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ أَحْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. You see, even in this ayat of Surah Hadid that I recited in front of you, there's a concept of dhurriyat over there, the progeny. Even in this ayah, when Hazrat Ibrahim is elevated to this status, what does he ask? The first thing that he wants to do? He wants to secure his family. He says, what about my progeny? What about who's going to come after me? Are they going to receive the same thing? Allah replies by saying, La yanalu ahd al-zalimin. Yes, if they are good, if they are pure, if they are purified ones, as the ayat of Surah Hadid also mentioned, فَمِنْهُمْ مُهْتَدٍ وَكَثِيرٌ مِنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. Some of them are rightly guided and many of them are transgressors. So if they will be good, then obviously you will get that in them. But if they're not going to be good, then obviously they will not be deserving this prophethood, nor will they be deserving this imamat. God knows everything, but He still tests individuals. I gave you the example. Why did He testing the individuals? He tests individuals not so that He gains any type of knowledge. Na'udhu billah. Allah is aware of everything, so that He can bring out the inner possibilities and the capabilities among the human being, and we're able to recognize one from the other. We're able to recognize who is more capable of this, or who has more knowledge about this. But why does He test the anbiya? We recited the hadith yesterday. It says, Innal bala'a lizzalimi adabun. When Allah tests the zalim, is so that educate them, to send a lesson to him, to train him, to give to warn him. But when He tests the mu'mineen, it is to imtihan, to test them, to bring out their inner capabilities. Why does He test the anbiya? It says, lil anbiya'i daraja, so that He can elevate one nabi from the other nabi. And that's why we see there are different stages and different levels of different anbiya. Some of them are just nabi. Some of them along being with Nabi are Rasul as well. Some of them along being Rasul are also Ulul Azm, and among the Ulul Azm is the highest of them is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the promotion we see of Hazrat Ibrahim is also that he's Abdullah, he's Nabiullah, he's Khalilullah, and then he's attaining this status of imamat, as he was being said, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّهُ, when he said to Ibrahim, إِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. This is, if you look into the books of Tafasir, you will find what were the exams or the tests that Hazrat Ibrahim went through. They have mentioned a few tests in this regard that Hazrat Ibrahim faced. Some of them counted even more than 15 or 16 of them. I will only mention 4. First was spending all of his wealth when ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do so. And they've mentioned his great wealth, 70,000 of this or whatnot. And so those details obviously don't matter to us. But he was able to give everything when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to give it away. That was the first test. So why? Because we're so much attached with the wealth that we have. We keep on reciting these ayat in the awlad and the wealth, the money that you possess are fitna for you, are a test for you, tribulation for you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing Hazrat Ibrahim with that as well. He said give away, he gave away in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second test for Hazrat Ibrahim. Now you might say, well, giving away the wealth is easy. You and I can do that even as well. But he gave away everything that Allah asked him. Not a single thing that he kept for him. Second was leaving his family in barren land of Arabia without anyone to look after them. That he says, oh Allah, I have left my family. I have left him. So, leaving them over there, obviously he's making dua, oh Allah, turn people's hearts towards them. Provide for them over here, as he was ordered to go ahead and leave them over there. It's a very big job, very big task. If you and I were asked to leave our families in such an area, we'll make sure when we're leaving our families somewhere that everything is provided, everything is included over there. So they're not, running around in need for anyone. But we see that Allah orders Hazrat Ibrahim to go ahead and do so. He leaves his family. That was a big test for him. Seeing a dream to sacrifice his son Hazrat Ismail. He says, Undur mada tara. He says, Hazrat Ismail replied by saying, if al-matumar satajiduni inshallah min as-sabirin. Go ahead and do what you want to. What Allah has ordered you to do, you will inshallah find me among sabirin, those who are the patient ones. So indeed it was a test for Hazrat Ibrahim. Not just a simple test. You say, well, Anbiya could go through this test. He was granted this son at an old age. Some riwayat mention he was in his 90s, in his late 80s and 90s even, when he was granted the son. And when he was old enough, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ, when he was old enough to help out his father, you wait for your child to grow up so he can help out in the family affairs, in the needs and the workout and whatnot. He was old enough to help the father out. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? Go ahead and sacrifice him. Wow, that's difficult. Getting a son at that late, and then when he's old enough to help out the old father, go ahead and sacrifice. This is where it's trying to show the detachment with innamal awlad and your belongings. They're what? Fitna for you. And see, the fitna in a sense, they're test for you. So Ibrahim was tested by Hazrat Ismail with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we see this was a third test. Fourth test over here is that being thrown into the fire by Nimrud and his people. And this is where even Jibreel comes and asks, do you want me to help you and bring you out of it? He said, no, I'll rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered, قُلْ يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. O fire, be cool and sound for Ibrahim. So he comes out of it unhurt. We see that these are some of the tests that Hazrat Ibrahim went through. Messages that we learn from this ayah number 26 of Surah Hadid that we've been doing the tafsir of. When remembering the dignified and the honorable, mention the vanguards first. Mention the one who are forementioned. He said, Nuhan wa Ibrahim. You might debate between the status of Nuh and Hazrat Ibrahim. But Allah mentions Nuh first, and then He mentions Ibrahim. And then we said, Nabuwwat is from Allah and not decided by the people. جَعَلْنَا فِي ذُرِّيَّتِهِمَ النُّبُوَّةِ. Even in the zurriyat of Nuh and Ibrahim ﷺ, Allah is the one who's going to decide who is going to be the Nabi. He said, we decided in their progeny. There were both types of people in history, ones who accepted the invitation of prophets and those who decline. فَمِنْهُمْ مُهْتَدٍ وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. In the affairs pertaining to beliefs and ethics, majority is not the real criteria. كَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. Majority were fasiq. Being from the offspring of the pure ones doesn't automatically make one pure, nor is the proof of their purity. Just because you belong to the aslaf, just because you belong to the progeny, the household and whatnot, does not make you automatically pure. It says, كَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. Majority of them were fasiq. So the concept of majority in Quran is explained over here. And I'm going to go through that in the next 5 minutes. I keep forgetting the dua is after namaz. So it was running in my mind to finish it off, but I got time. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. Concept of majority. We always are running after majority. In the politics, there's majority rule. There are other areas of our life, there's majority and whatnot. Where Quran, if you look at in Quran, majority is actually denounced in Quran. Majority is actually condemned in Quran. Wherever you see, it says, "Bal aktharuhum la yu'minun." Majority does not believe. You see, look at in the world today, 6.57 billion people. Majority, are not on the right path. For example, only 1.6 billion Muslims. And if you look at all of the divine religions where people are following one God, you will not find that to be the majority, for example. So therefore, bal aktharuhum la yu'minun. According to Quran, akthariyat, majority is not going to bring iman. Another place we see wa aktharuhumul fasiqun. The majority is among the fasiqeen. It says wa aktharuhum la yaqilun. 3 places in Quran it says majority does not use their intellect. La yaqilun. They do not ponder. They do not think about it. These are all the majority that we are talking about. Walakin aktharuhum la ya'lamun. 15 places in Quran it says that majority of them do not know. La ya'lamun. They do not know. So 4 examples I mentioned. La yu'minun, they don't bring iman. Aktharuhumul fasiqun. Aktharuhum la yaqilun. Aktharuhum la ya'lamun. 4 of them so far. It says walakinna aktharuhum yajhalun. Majority is what? Jahil, ignorant. They don't want to learn. They don't want to attain knowledge. 5. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. You will find majority to be ungrateful. Majority does not thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not grateful to the favors that He has sent down upon them. So majority is among the ungrateful ones. It says, وَأَكْثَرُهُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Majority is of the kuffar. Majority is not of the believers. وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ لِلْحَقِّ كَارِهُونَ. Majority, when it comes to the truth, karihun, they have this karahat with it. They get turned off by it. So they're karihun. وَمَا كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ مُؤْمِنِينَ. Again, repeating on la yu'minun, that majority is not among the mu'mineen. يُلْقُونَ السَّمْعَ وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ كَاذِبُونَ. Majority of them are liars, kadhibun. And then it says, كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ mushrikeen. Majority is of the mushrikeen, those who do shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it says, أَكْثَرُهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ. Majority is the ones who do not listen. They do not pay attention. Do you want to be among this majority? Do you want to be part of this أَكْثَرُهُمْ? This is the majority. A lot of time we see, why so many people are doing this? That means that must be right. No, majority is doing it. That does not automatically make that thing to be okay. And so therefore we see in Quran the concept of majority is explained in a way that it is condemned. Majority in Quran is condemned. You can't rely on a majority in the matters of beliefs, ethics, and religion. In fact, anything divine cannot be measured through the concept of majority. This is where we see that the concept of divine leadership, which is being mentioned, is something which brings about the unity as well. If you look at the divine leadership, and if we all cling on to this divine leadership, which is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is the one which will keep everyone together. We recite this ayah from Surah Al Imran, verse number 103, a famous ayah that I'm sure most of you have heard many times and even have it memorized. It says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ عَادَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. And the ayat goes on towards the end. It says, hold fast all together to Allah's court and do not be divided into sects. Remember Allah's blessing upon you when you were enemies. Then He brought your hearts together so you may become brothers with His blessings. Twice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning His blessings. فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا, and then وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. Twice He's mentioning the ni'mat. Allah does not brag, does not boast. But it doesn't matter if even Allah brags and boasts about it, because everything is from Him. He tells us not to brag and boast because nothing belongs to us. Nothing is from us. But here we see ni'mat. Twice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning the ni'mat. What is this ni'mat that He's talking about? He's talking about the ni'mat of bringing everyone together. That if you cling on to this i'tisam, this rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will never be separated. And that's why we see there's so many ayat in Quran in regards to the concept of how we can bring people together, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to cause this unity among the society. It says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Believers are each other's brothers. Restore peace among your brothers. Have fear of God, so perhaps you will receive the mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To the extent that He says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِهِ صَفًّا كَأَنَّهُمْ بُنْيَانٌ مَرْصُوصٌ. Surah Saf, verse number 4. That God loves those who fight for His cause in battlefield formations firm as an unbreakable concrete wall, so that you all stand together in a way that you will not be able to run over by anyone else. This is where I want to end. I don't have a great deal of time. A story of a group, that was going from Kashan to make a trade or to make a travel. And when on the way back, they were ambushed by a couple of people who were bandits. They were outlaws, and they robbed them of their possessions. There were two of them. So when they came back to Kashan, they went to Qadi to report what had happened to them. Qadi asked them, and when he heard the story, he said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, there were some couple of bandits and outlaws. They robbed us of our goods, and so we're coming here to complain about it." He said, "How many were you?" He said, "We were 100 people together in this caravan. We were 100 of us in this caravan." He said, "How many were they?" So there were two. Then he rephrased his phrase. He says, "Those two were united and us 100 were not united." And that was the reason primarily why they were able to rob us. So 100 of you, Qazi was surprised. How can 100 of you were not able to take care of these two people who were robbing you? He said the primary reason was those two were united and us 100 were not united. And that's what happens if the majority is not united. If they're not going to sit together and unite, then obviously the minority or those who are in singles will come and be able to cause this fitna and be able to divide you. I will end with the hadith from Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, "Shirarukum al-mashsha'una bin-namima al-mufarriquna bayna al-ahibba." It's the worst among you are those who pinch others' words and cause disunity and discord between friends. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to be able to cause mercy, or to be able to cause this unity among our communities. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a tawfiq to be able to follow the teachings of this Quran, as well as the teachings of Ma'asumeen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah hasten zuhur of our awaited Imam and make us among the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.